Chapter 4. I am almost incarcerated. At the end of September, the rains began. There were fewer and fewer days when I could go to sit on the dock to wait for my parents without getting drenched. I didn't like being at Uncle Jack's with the dead whalers, and the playground became less safe as my classmates lost patience with me completely. They seemed to think that as time went on, I would admit my parents weren't coming back, but time had nothing to do with it. I didn't know what they would dare do to me beyond teasing, but I did not want to find out. One rainy day after school, panicked by no good choices, I saw the girl who told me my mother should have stayed with me approaching. I ran pell-mell into town, where it occurred to me that I would be safe in stores. I flew into the grocery store and tried to look like an earnest shopper. Up one aisle and down another, I loitered, examining the labels on the canned vegetables. I checked all the pull dates in Mr. Hardy's dairy case. I hoped Mr. Hardy would be grateful to be told the pull dates on all his cottage cheese had expired, but he wasn't. He wished me good day, so I crossed the road and nipped into Cantina's drugstore. The cantinas had a bell attached to the door that dingled whenever anyone went in or out. They kept a big black Labrador named Dante tied to the counter by the front door. I always gave him a pat whenever I came in. It wasn't much of a life lying there all day. I smiled at Mrs. Cantina, who was sitting at the cash register reading a magazine and eating a caramel apple. Recipe to follow. Mrs. Cantina glanced up at me as if she was thinking, "That's life for you. You start to eat an apple and some ugly juicy green worm sticks its head out." I swallowed my smile and went over to the magazine rack and picked up a magazine. "Buy them or put them down," barked Mrs. Cantina. So I put it down and examined the odd sand toys that nobody ever bought. "Can I help you?" snarled Mr. Cantina from behind the prescription counter. He looked as if he was about to say more, but the bell over the door dingled and a bunch of people came in at once, which occupied both cantinas. I took that opportunity to hide in the aisle that held Band-Aids and hot water bottles. The bell over the door kept dingling, so I felt safe for a while and was fingering a hot water bottle when Mr. Cantina came marching down the aisle, snapping, Do you want to buy a hot water bottle or don't ya?" and snatched it out of my hands. I started to say, "No, I was just looking," when Mrs. Cantina squealed, "Jesus, Mary, and Maud! Someone's cut down his leash again." Apparently, someone had been coming in regularly, cutting Dante's leash and let him out of the store, and the cantinas were just mad to find the perpetrator. I stood watching Mrs. Cantina, who was running up and down the aisle making such a huge fuss that it was mesmerizing. Mr. Cantina ran to the front door of the store, opened the door to call the dog, grabbed the cut leash, and swore. Mrs. Cantina stopped making gibberish noises and got on the phone to the sheriff, ordering him to come immediately and arrest someone. That's when Mr. Cantina very stealthily crept up behind me, grabbed my collar, and roared, "You!" in my ear. No one had ever grabbed me by the collar, much less roared, "You!" in my ear before. It discombobulated me totally. "Did you cut Dante's leash? Did you? Did you? Did you?" he demanded, shaking me. Another person, guilty or not, would have sensibly cried no at that point, but I was still floating these days, and my mind went off on a tangent, thinking it was unreasonable and silly for Mr. Cantina to keep repeating "Did you?" that way. Did he expect me to answer, "No, no, no, yes"? I barely noticed the strangled, gagging noises I was making as I drifted along on these thoughts when Sheriff Peters, whose office was only 2 doors down, strolled in. "Hello, folks," he said. I tried to point to myself to indicate that I was not the guilty party, but I was pretty close to fainting, so it probably came off as just as a nervous tic. "Better hand over her to me," said the sheriff. Mr. Cantina dropped me, and Sheriff Peters led me to the door. "And don't ever come back," yelled Mrs. Cantina. "Don't never come back," yelled Mr. Cantina. "She was fingering the hot water bottles." "I was only looking," I protested. The bell dingled at Sheriff Peters and I left. We walked slowly toward his office. "I was just going to go look for you, actually," said the sheriff. "I didn't cut the leash," I said. "Oh, that," said the sheriff absently, which didn't seem to me to be a very professional response from a low and older man. We walked silently the rest of the way to the jail. My mouth was beginning to go dry at the thought of it. Then suddenly it occurred to me that a jail cell was a safe place to be, a quiet nest where people would leave me alone. And I liked Sheriff Peters. But it would be a terrible thing for Uncle Jack and even worse for my parents when they returned. We entered the sheriff's office. Beyond his desk were two cells, clean but spare. I thought I might have trouble entertaining myself there. He went behind his desk, sighed, and said, "I've got something to show you." He pulled out a yellow Macintosh, and with a face full of pity, handed it to me. I knew it was my mother's even before I saw the inside, where her name was written in a big felt-penned letters to distinguish it from mine or my dad's. I looked at her felt pen name blankly. Fisherman found this on one of the Queen Charlotte Islands, caught on a rock. He got off his boat, Primrose, and walked the whole island, but she wasn't there. He stopped and let this sink in. But it didn't matter, because all it proved was that my mother was sitting out there, coatless somewhere, waiting to come home to me. Even as he stared at it, the remark, "Your mother's dead," sitting unspoken, like something rotten in our path that neither one of us wanted to be the first to pick up. Even after the kind of day I had had, being taunted at school and even threatened with incarceration, even knowing that when I went home I would face a house full of ghosts, it didn't matter to me. Instead, I felt a little stab of joy. "Well," I thought to myself as we both continued to stare at the Macintosh, and the feeling of joy swept through my soul like fire up a vacuum, "this is certainly inappropriate." "Haven't you ever believed in something contrary to the evidence?" I asked. Sheriff Peters frowned. Then he said soberly, "I once believed that a man we had caught with all the evidence of murder around him was innocent. We ended up sending him away because we had to present evidence against him." "Was he proved innocent?" I asked. "No, but I continued to think after all these years that he was, and I can't give you a single good reason for it." We looked at each other knowingly. I nodded, turned around, and went home.